Thank you, first of all, for the invitation to this forum. It's a great opportunity, and especially now when we are witnessing a period of uncertainty, not only in Europe, not only in Eastern Europe, in Caucasus, but around the world. And actually, the questions and answers to the questions reflect the current environment and perceptions around the world. And actually, we can witness that it is exactly the win of Russia's revisionist policy. So that, making it believe to others that NATO membership of Georgia can destabilize further Europe, and conflict should be frozen. Otherwise, it can be a bigger problem for Europe. Therefore, our Georgians and Ukrainians, I think the main challenge is to break this understanding around the world and make everyone believe and understand that larger Europe, safer Europe, Europe without conflicts, and European countries, members of Euro-Atlantic community, members of NATO, are of the interests of peace and stability of the European Union, Euro-Atlantic community in general. We have done everything in order to mobilize the international community towards the understanding of the conflicts. Actually, the major issue is here that we had a question about the conflicts in South Ossetia and Abkhazia, but the conflict is with the Russian Federation. We have Russian troops on our territory, and we have razor wire built by the Russian forces. So we have to understand the essence and the major problem here. When we talk about the reaction of the West, that was the question. Actually, we've seen that reaction was not the one which was needed in 2008 and after 2008, and it actually created Crimea. It created a conflict in Eastern Europe. So therefore, we are now trying to actually work very hard with the international community to raise awareness of the real needs with regards the conflict resolution. Yesterday, UN Human Rights Council adopted a very important resolution. Actually, this has been the first resolution adopted after the conflict with regards the human rights situation in Georgia and in the occupied territories. And we had support of all EU member states. We had support of the United States, and we had support of other Western partners and countries. And actually, the other forums also, OSCE actually is raising its voice. We had a very strong resolution adopted by OSCE Parliamentary Assembly last year. We had also very important decisions in Council of Europe. So that is happening during last 2 years, and actually we are trying to work in all relevant international organizations to raise awareness of the conflict. Actually, I have to return back to the question also on the screen, and which is about whether the further expansion of the European Union or NATO stabilize the situation. Yes, it can. Yes, it can, because the integration process itself has delivered great results to Georgia. Last 4 years, especially in Georgia, have been most stable years in the history since regaining independence. We have been democratizing our country. We have implemented all necessary reforms which were required for achieving the association agreement, for achieving the visa liberalization, and that has created stability in the country, and we delivered. During the last 4 years, we delivered on the European pass. On the NATO pass, we delivered on the all components of technical approximation with NATO. We are strengthening our defense capabilities. We are harmonizing ourselves and making ourselves interoperable with NATO through the NATO-Georgia substantial package, which is more, for instance, in terms of technical cooperation than the membership action plan. And we are actively engaged in all the formats, NATO-Georgia Commission, which is, for instance, during this year we had 4 NATO-Georgia commissions held already. We had a NATO military committee visiting Georgia. We are going to hold NATO Parliamentary Assembly. Actually, this process strengthens us. This process actually brings us closer to the integration path, but the most important thing there is a political decision on the membership. And that decision will be the best stabilizing factor for Georgia, and definitely Ukraine has the same path, and that will be the best stabilizing factor for the eastern flank of Europe. We are on the actually in the front lines of the major developments, and that front line should be defended. First of all, on the cooperation with the EU member states, Georgia is working very actively with all the EU member states, with very active and traditional supporters of European and Euro-Atlantic integration of Georgia, as well as with other more skeptical countries. I think it is important to work with all of them in order to make everyone understand the benefits of Georgia's path to the EU and path to the NATO. And definitely we work very closely with Romania, as Vice Prime Minister mentioned. So we work on the Black Sea security issue, and we work on other initiatives which strengthens our region and which brings more peace and stability to the region, and defensibility and security capabilities. When it comes to the question what the current government of Georgia is doing, actually what we've heard here is part of the disinformation campaign which we are hearing around the world, and unfortunately opposition in Georgia is very much supportive to this disinformation campaign. Actually what Georgia has achieved...
Could you just clarify, what are you referring to as the disinformation campaign?
I mean the campaign that Georgia is allowing some entry of military equipment or etc.
Oh, you were referring to his question, sorry.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Actually, well, what we have is that Russian military and army has entered Georgia in 2008. Unfortunately, they are controlling the territory and occupying the territory since then, and unfortunately, today the government of Georgia is not in control of controlling control of the borders, and is not able to control any movement of the military equipment there. And actually, we are trying to work with all the partners in order to raise awareness of the challenges which is coming from the ongoing militarization of those regions, and it is happening really. When it comes to the governance, Georgia has achieved during last 4 years actually the great results in the democratization. This has been the greatest achievement of the government. We have ensured that today Georgian media is fully free. We have today more than 10, actually 14 nationwide TV channels, and nationwide ones, and they are all critical to the government, including the public broadcaster, which is represented here. And also we have delivered on open governance. We have moved up in all the international rankings. In corruption perception index, for instance, we are ahead of 11 new member states, which is actually a result of 2016. We have become the 5th freest economy according to the Fraser and 13th freest economy according to the Heritage Foundation. We have this year expected 5% economic growth, and actually it is the case when we have the contraction of economy around us in the region. FDI is growing, tourist flow is growing. We had 6.4 million visitors last year and 24% growth. And in terms of good governance, actually, World Bank has named Georgia, and we have advanced in all the indicators in good governance. We have advanced in rule of law. In human rights protection, actually, Georgia is, according to the applications, number of applications to the Strasbourg court, we are on the level of Norway. So when we had the huge and the record number of applications before 2012 to the Strasbourg court.
Complaints to the court.
Complaints.
Right.
So it is a result of the reform of judiciary. We implemented 3 waves of reform of judiciary, which has resulted in the trust of the judiciary, and therefore, there is no need to apply for the Strasbourg court. So that's the best indicator of that. And actually, we are not perfect, but we are on the right direction. That makes Georgia successful and stable on that path.
Thank you very much.
Thank
It's
you.
very interesting. My set of